Good morning, creatures of the night. The stream continues. Let's press buttons. Yeah. Okay, where were we? Hungarian folk dances. So, we have this problem where airships that are kind of in this landships that are kind of in this weird, stupid position end up doing this. Yeah. Which isn't good. My guess is this is it attempting to repeatedly make a step, despite the fact it should really know that it can't reach the ground. And now it's stopped. God knows why, but now it's stopped. Okay. Right. Let's have a look at this. So it's going to be in start step, which is the part where it actually plans where it's going to put its foot. Okay, here we go. Target y is hip height plus spec.limb length times 2. So it's basically thinking you can put its foot down as far as the maximum extension if it was exactly below its hip, which is nonsense. So instead we're going to make this spec dot spring dot base length minus 2. Right. So now it will only try to go down as far as the spring's base length. So that's definitely good. And it should also just abort the whole process if we can't reach the bottom. So int new target. So we're just going to start out by doing a theoretical target x and target y, and then checking that we can reach the ground, and only then actually bothering to do it. So basically if the spring can't reach to the ground, then we just return false. Okay, I think that's the right thing to do. I think. Let's see what happens. Checking OBS, yeah, that all looks right. You know, just being paranoid that I haven't actually turned the audio back on, and you've just been seeing me going for the last 5 minutes, but this is not the case. Good. Comment. So yeah, about that. That's not perfect. Okay. So now it's hi Butter Whisper, and hi DRA14 and so on. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and I shall answer them. Okay, so I think now the problem is that while we've improved the logic for start step, it's now, if we can't actually do a step, it just sort of has a little attack. So maybe in that case we just need to do we just need to do the exact same thing as we would do in the case of the kind of scrunch reaction. Okay, so if we are starting a step, if we can actually find a place to put the foot, then we do this whole source and target and step progress and so on, and it works. But if we can't find a location to put the foot because the ground's too far down, then we kind of scrunch up the leg in anticipation of hopefully falling down, or at least the leg not looking stupid. Let's see what that does. And I guess you should probably do the same thing in the leg init code. So if we can't init properly, it's just gonna scrunch. Yeah. See, that's not too bad. It kind of now, when it gets confused about where to put its legs, it just kind of pulls them in and waits for gravity to return it to the place where the legs actually contact the ground. Yeah, that works pretty well. So yeah, you can observe two bugs which need fixing in this particular moment. One is the ship is vibrating back and forth, which is bad, and the other one is that it's standing on top of a tree. Oh, and here's a third one. Hey, look at that! Look at that! The drawing code is trying to be really clever, and it's going, hey, the ship's out of the frame, and so we don't need to draw it anymore. There's just this tiny problem, which is that the legs extend far below the ship. Okay. So we're just going to have to put this as a thing to fix. Land ship should get drawn if the body is off screen, the legs are still showing. So what you're seeing here is just an optimization where it tries to not bother drawing stuff that isn't even vaguely on screen, which is nice and clever and all that, except for when it goes wrong. Well, this is a lot better now. I think I will at this point say that the Hungarian folk dance problem is fixed. Which means we can move on to some other problem. Good fun. So going to commit this to Git. Okay, what's next on the list? Shall we do something easy or something hard? What's the most important next thing? Well, one of those two, I think. Fixing the vibrating will probably be a good idea. I mean, the reason why it's vibrating is that it's because it's in this. My guess is the reason it's vibrating is it's in this complex system with springs and whatnot, and it's and the ship's X position gets rounded to the nearest integer for like crisper drawing, and this then ends up leading to this really bad result where it's it's just oscillating around an integer boundary and vibrating back and forth as a result. So how do we fix that? I don't really know. All the fixes I can think of right off the bat would have worse consequences. Like I could make it horizontal movement a lot more when it's stationary, but yeah. Oh, yeah. But that would mean that land ships are ludicrously hard to dislodge when they're not moving, which might be a bit over the top. And of course, there's no real way of triggering this except for hoping that you randomly get into the situation. Which of course none ever happens. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I wanted to put in a non-linear response into the springs. So the problem is right now that if the land ship somehow ends up in a position where the springs are suddenly get activated in a really compressed state, it does a vast amount of it really kind of jumps up in a ludicrous way. So that's actually a fairly easy thing to fix. So I'm just going to fix that. Okay. Basically, we need to introduce an extra thing in. Min compressed length. So it's basically as far the amount by which a spring will compress and still exert a linear force. Someone's doing some kind of gardening or trimming or something. I hope the sound of it isn't too loud. Probably isn't. It's probably just annoying to me. Okay. Then we're basically saying thank you. Apparently the background noise isn't a problem. Glad to hear that. I don't think we want it here, but we do want it here. Yeah, there we go. So if L, the current length of the spring, is smaller than the min compressed length, that no longer produces any additional force. Now we just need to put this in everywhere. Guess in general we probably want it to be like at the like halfway point or something. This also means that there's going to be a this is probably something I'll have to look into later. Now that the springs are no longer infinitely compressible, because previously technically they could even compress into negative length and continue providing ever more force, now they are no longer infinitely compressible, there's going to be a maximum upwards force they can provide, and hence a maximum carry weight that they can possibly have, and that's actually not so hard to calculate. And so I can in the editor I can go, well, I'm sorry, but your ship is physically heavier than what your legs or wheels will possibly be able to support, and just refuse to, you know, validate that ship. What would be fun to see about a Whisper? It's a bit asynchronous, so I don't necessarily like what I'm saying appears on your screens with like a 5-second delay, so I don't necessarily know which bit you're watching at the moment. Spring back from negative compression. Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of ends up with a very enthusiastically springy ships. Yep, just like really happy land ships bouncing along, being cute. Okay, I doubt that this will have made much of a difference in normal operation. It shouldn't make much of a difference in normal operation. How long have I been working on the game? I've been working on it since September 2013. I started working on it kind of as a prototype, as a kind of fun side project. Started blogging about it pretty soon. People really liked the blog post, so I just kind of kept on building it. And now it's like on Steam and stuff. It's pretty weird. Anticipating the follow-up question here, when will it be complete? My guess is sometime this year, probably towards the end of this year. Oops. Yeah. Still works. A little bit less crazily bouncy now. Probably needs some adjustment long term, but we'll leave it at that right now. Okay. Yeah. Not asking when will the game be done is probably very much a thing. It's like It's like going up to someone who's writing up the doctoral thesis and asking, "So, how far along are you with your thesis?" That's likely to get you killed, because the answer is probably, oh God, I haven't even started yet. My supervisor is trying to kill me." Um, but I have a plan for what I want to put in. I'm doing my best to stick to it. As usual, things take longer than they should, but you know, I think having the game actually completed and polished is a virtue. Um, so I do want to get there. And of course, there's this thing about right now the game's in early access, and I know that a lot of people are like holding off on buying the game, or holding off on reviewing the game, even talking about it, just because oh, there's been so much bad stuff happening under the umbrella of early access. People just developing some game, getting lots of money from selling it in early access, and then just sort of wandering off and never completing it, or just basically shouting it's done and releasing something that's barely beta quality and walking away. And I don't know their lives. I don't know what they're doing. I think in some cases, there's probably, they ran out of money. They realized they bit enough more that they can chew. It's not great, but you can sort of understand. In some cases, I do really worry that it's just a cash grab. Um, you know, um, you can make a prototype and talk people's ears full about how great the final game's going to be, get people to buy the prototype and then walk off. That's not what I want to do. I want this thing to leave early access and be complete and be polished and be usable. And if there's going to be more stuff, that's what expansion packs are for. I can always make expansions or just updates or whatever to add additional things in. But there has to be a point where the game is kind of complete and whole, so people can actually go sit down and play the game. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the reason why I'm doing this is, well, it's early feedback. It's being able to actually see people play the game, and it's also it's a marketing thing. Let's be honest. If you just go and if you just work in obscurity and then one day you go, "Hey, my game's done," people are going to go, "What is this? What is this game? We don't know anything about it. It's probably shit." So having this kind of long lead-in time where you can get people to look at your game and play your game and kind of see how you're really working on it and developing it and how it's getting better, that can be really good. And especially if you're like an indie developer like me, who has no marketing budget, it's when Airships is released, it's not like you can kind of call up all the major news organizations and say, yeah, put this on the front page. Let's do a press thing. Let's go to like E3 and get a stall the size of the moon or something. So I'm dependent on word of mouth. I'm dependent on people kind of getting to know the game slowly, because I can't make a big splash. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's there's so many indie games, there's so many games coming up. I guess really, it's a bit of a stupid time to make games. Well, it's a really good time on the one hand because there's there's a lot of interest. On the other hand, you definitely get people who think that this is where the easy money is. I mean, I've seen people like remortgaging their houses to like fund game development, and I'm just want to scream, don't do it, don't do it. You have a house, keep your house. Um, all right. So what do you do, Butter Whisper? What do you market with a budget of 0? Okay, where were we? Okay, so the next thing I want to put in is, because it's been annoying me for a while, is making the feet wider than 0. Let's do that. So that's going to be in leg spec. Logically speaking, it's after limb length. Okay. Oh, right, tabletop games is what Battle Whisper works on, so that's, yeah, that's quite similar. Okay. So we have to put in the width of the feet now. What are the widths of the feet? Okay, that's the actual foot graphic. 20 units. Well, there we go. We actually don't have graphics for the large legs yet, which is why occasionally things crash horribly. When I accidentally go and look at a ship with large legs. At some point soon, actually, I should do a little graphics session on the stream where I draw the large legs. I think that would be entertaining. But for now, let's just continue with this. So I've now put in the information about how wide the foot is. Now I need to actually use this information in the code for legs. And how does this work? Well, basically, okay, in all of these places where I'm looping over the land formations, I basically need to call length to twice to consider the fact that it might be on a kind of on an edge. This is really making me itch because frankly it shouldn't be. I shouldn't have so much code duplication. Twitch. Okay. Public double get ground y of double initial value. I think that will do. Yeah, and now this gets complicated a little bit. So we're basically asking all the land formations twice now. Let's look at the left part of the foot and the right part of the foot, and what does this intersect with? And is that enough? No, because technically speaking, with a foot width of 20, it's possible that if the foot is precisely on a single sticky out bit of ground, probing the left edge and the right edge, but not the center, will cause everything to catch fire and it to miss the fact that it's actually got a footing. So we probe it 3 times. Which is horribly expensive. This may end up having to be a candidate for making more efficient, but basic rule of game development is, well, no, of any development is make it work first and then optimize the bits that are actually slow. So I'm not going to worry too much that I'm like constantly looping over all the ground bits and doing all these calculations until I actually have proof that it's a major factor in slowing down the game. Mm-hmm. So now I'm just replacing all of those individual loops with an invocation to get ground Y. Was that all? Plausibly? Oh no, here's another one. Thought as much. There. So now the foot of legs should actually have the width it appears to have on screen. And this code will work correctly exactly as long as the width of your foot isn't greater or maybe equal to 32 pixels, because that's 2 blocks wide, at which point you could end up with a situation where the probes miss the block. So that's just one of those limitations. If that becomes a problem, I can dynamically calculate the position of the probes and do exactly as many as necessary. Let's see what happens. Oh, is this an item? Init legs when placing in combat setup. Because right, this is, and also set leg positions to scrunch by default. So what I mean by this is just I'm getting sort of tired of it looking like this when you place it, which is obviously stupid. It should be placed in a way where it's already sitting on the ground, even if in a moment it's going to fix itself up. There you go. So now if we make it walk, we should hopefully see. Yeah, see, you can see how it's now positioning itself correctly. Yeah, it's pretty good. This is really starting to look, you know, a bit more real now. Okay, thought. I think I want to move. I want to make the actual physical size of these legs just slightly smaller than the sprite size. I think that will work better. I'm just going to make them 18 or 16 or something, just so we don't get into a situation where it's kind of standing on a ground block by like 1 pixel, because that looks bad, right? So let's adjust that. In fact, let's make it 17, just to confuse everyone. No, that won't even work. 18 it is. Okay. What else? I feel like there was another thing that we just did. Oh, never mind. Okay. Oh, we did this. So next up, I think initting leg positions so the legs look less daft is the way to go. Before I do that, there's going to be another like 5-minute break, and then I will be right back, okay? I return to perform cat maintenance duties, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's continue coding. So what were we doing? Oh yes, so just having sane initial positions for the legs that aren't point straight out. We can do that. We can do that indeed. Frankly, these can be pretty much just fixed values. So let's just make the legs go at a 45-degree angle. So it's just going to be something like upper rotation equals math dot pi divided by 4. Let's start out with that and see how wrong it is, yes? So this is literally just so in the editor the legs don't look stupid. I mean, yeah, they do look stupid, but you know what else. So yeah, don't do that. So roughly the only part that's correct here is these guys, the non-flipped uppers. Everything else is completely wrong. Excellent. I think that's the correct thing now. Yeah, that looks okay. That looks, you know, no longer stupid, which is what we really cared about. I feel like in practice it probably needs to be a bit more scrunched in. So think like that. At the end of the stream, would you guys like to see a cat? I have some cats that I can show to you. They're very cute. No, that was wrong. That was incorrect. Again, I got that one right and everything else is oh so very wrong. Yes, you would like to see a cat. I thought you might. Oh god, yeah, this is embarrassing. I'm basically just changing the numbers until it works. More coffee. More coffee might help make the brain work. Okay, so now the right one's correct. But the whisper, is that because you don't like your cats, or do you just not want to have to deal with maintaining the little things? Okay, so that's right now. Now, yeah, for the flipped versions, upper rotation. Yeah. Let's try that. Our cats are very nice. They're very friendly. You don't like your cat or anything that comes out of her. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Things that come out of cats. Our cats are nice, they're friendly, but one of them has exciting medical problems, exciting, smelly medical problems, which have led to a great deal of fun. There we go. That looks good. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, so now we need to do something slightly similar, doing setup. So let's just try public void init legs combat C. Hi Clancy, nice of you to join us. We are doing terrible things to legs. It's 4 in the morning where you are. Okay, so you are part of the oh yikes, you're on the East Coast? Yeah, okay, yeah, you might need to go to bed. Well, if you're about to have to go to bed, we are just going to have a short break for cat, yeah? So this involves making the screen capture, the video capture bigger. This is not the cat, this is just my face. Then I'm going to find you a cat. This is a cat. Hey. This is Dexter. He's about 30 months old. He's the smaller of our two cats. Also the smarter and whinier one. You can see he's pretty friendly because he's not yet clawed my eyes out. Okay, well I do think he'll probably want to leave now. Oh, There we go, cat axe. Let's shrink this again. Okay. Okay, so initting legs. Let's just try this. You think the main complication will be that there are some circumstances where you need to init legs. We may not have a combat object to talk to yet, and in that circumstance we're going to have to write some extra code, but let's just see for now. In the place ship tool, which is the tool we use to place the ship, actually placing the ship, okay. So if we have a combat to talk to, because you don't always, you can also place ships in all kinds of circumstances, like during defense setup, multiplayer setup where there isn't a combat that's been initialized yet, all of these circumstances, and all the information is there about where the bits of rock are. They're just not stored in the combat. So we're going to have to generalize this code a bit. But if there is a combat, like in the single player combat setup, where we can just create a combat straight off the bat, then we can go ship to place dot init. Oh, that was a module. Okay, yeah, sure. So it's just telling the ship to init its legs, and it tells each of its submodules to init their legs. And then hopefully the legs are initted. And this will work in one of the cases, and then there's all of these other cases. You can see all of this horrible logic. For example, we might be in a city, or we might have what's called a setup fleet. That's for multiplayer setup. So there are 3 circumstances, and only in one of them will this work right now. Where to start? Yeah, there we go. That worked just fine. Gets placed. If we move it, finds new leg position to suit itself. So that's good. It won't work in other circumstances, like multiplayer setup. Okay, yeah, looks like there's an error here, because when we click add land ship, If you click add anything, it's just adding airships. So that's even broken, but I'm pretty sure it won't work. So yeah, I guess that's what we fix. Next, adding the button for adding ships to multiplayer is confused and always wants to add airships. Here it is. And yes, it's completely broken. It's doing the wrong thing. It's just referencing airship across when it should be referring to the particular ship type. Yeah, I reorganized a lot of kind of user interface and other stuff when I introduced land ships. Because previously everything kind of ran on the assumption that something's an airship or it's a building. They just had these if statements like if airship do this, otherwise do this. And this, the moment you add a third kind of thing, this breaks down. The bug you just saw is a fallout from this not being done correctly in a particular situation. I think now it is so. Let's try it out. Multiplayer. Yeah, if you want to fight against me in multiplayer, please do let me know. Tweet at me, send me an email or whatever. I'd love to actually broadcast some multiplayer fights at some point. So if we can make that happen, that would be awesome. Add land ship. Yeah, see, it's now just going for the standard positioning of the legs, which it's okay, but it would just be nicer to get it really positioned properly right away. So for that to work, we need to have a slightly clever behavior. Okay, basically the issue is that we have this combat value here that gets ultimately threaded into ground Y, and that we don't always have available. Instead, we might have a city available, or we might have what's called setup ground and setup floaters available. This is faintly irritating. There's like 3 distinct ways in which we've stored this information. Kill me now. So let's go for the most generic option, which means passing in a bunch of land formations. Okay, so wherever possible, uproot the concept of combat and instead have land formation ground, land so land formation is one of those bits of ground, one of those grids of soil and rock and whatever, and both the ground and the floating rocks are land formations. So we need that in start step. Going upwards, we need it in actually then it's in init legs, yeah. here. And in fact, we really don't want to duplicate this whole init legs effort, so okay, this is slightly tricky because here we only want to init them if they're not already initted. Okay, fair enough. Let's just introduce. So basically, this lets it know whether we want to reinitialize the leg positions or only initialize them if we haven't yet. Actually, let's call this false. Okay, now we just have this massive mess where a whole bunch of things is broken because stuff is passing in or expecting combat and not getting the right thing and so on. So let's fix that up. So start step, instead of the combat, now need C dot, just needs null and C dot land formations. So we're just passing in the land formations. Same here. Reason I'm passing in null here is that when in combat, all of the land formations, including the ground, are just in the same list, whereas in other circumstances, they're actually separate. Yes, this is bad. Okay. So now we just need to chase these changes we've made throughout the entire code until they stop breaking everything up. The way we do this is that we end up with two versions of ground Y, get ground Y, one which takes the combat, the other one takes the kind of destructured ground and floaters thing. Okay, now instead of looping over that, we just want to loop over floaters and psi do it individually for the ground, which is horrible code duplication, which makes me sad, but this is Java for you. There's no clean way of just constructing an ad hoc list out of a list and another thing. Oh, and that all only needs to be called if ground isn't actually null, because it will be null in certain circumstances, such as when it's being called from the combat. Okay. Right. Now we go up into Airship, and again init legs now needs and Yay! Now we go up to place ship tools, and here it's it's null and US.combat formations. Now we just put the leg positioning code in with all the rest of the stuff. So in this case, or if we have a city, it's or if you have a setup fleet, then it's there we go. Sometimes programming is just a whole lot of bureaucracy, moving information about, threading information in at the right place, and so on. Representing things in one way or another, and especially with a game like this, I guess, where there's just a lot of data, a lot of structure, you end up doing quite a lot of that thing. Okay, let's see if this now works. In the basic case of single player combat setup, it still works. In the other case of multiplayer combat setup, it works. So then there's a third case, which is inside this, and oh look, it's a crash. Everything catches fire. Can't set up the world map. Why can't we set up the world map? Who knows? Let's see if that was a transient failure. If it does it every time. Because right now we'd just like to check that the fix we did works. And then as the next thing we can fix that crash. But quite possibly it's just always there. Let's see. New game. No. Crash at the crash. Okay, this is for a perfectly good reason. The perfectly good reason is that it's trying to list the set of predefined land ships because it thinks, hey, maybe I want to build a land ship, and it can't because there are no predefined land ships. No, there are. There might be enough to fix things. Let's see. Now it has a list. The list is just empty, which might cause a crash later on, but we'll see. No, it's happy. I think. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. It's some work, whatever. Defenses. Build land ship. We can't afford the flaming fruit bat yet. Oh, it has yeah. The flaming fruit bat, being flaming, has a flamethrower, which we don't have in the default. So let's just redesign A flaming fruit bat. Ah, no, let's go for... Yeah, I saw Mad Max and I thought it was amazing. So there we go. Now you get Mad Max themed airship designs. Let's paint it black at the top. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is now totally the Imperator Furiosa land ship. Let's see if we can build one in the single player mode. Defenses, build land ship, Imperator Furiosa, place. Okay, so it's currently lovingly placed as a blueprint. Let's have it built. Good night, Battle Whisper. Fences. Ooh. Well, that went really seriously wrong. It gets built and then it doesn't get added to anything. Is it maybe it's in the reserve? No. So you can build land ships as long as you're not overly keen on actually them actually appearing. Once you've built them. I have this distinct feeling that something is still keying on whether something's an airship. I think the single player code that deals with ships being completed goes, oh, this isn't a building, this isn't an airship. I'm just going to drop this on the ground. Let's see if we can fix that. Yeah. Might be in city. And tick. Oh yeah. Look at this. Oh, so bad. I thought I got rid of all of those, but yeah, it's considering a number of cases, and the number of cases it considers are: is it an airship? Is it a building? It's not considering the case of maybe it's a land ship. Okay. Well, we just need to change this to if it's mobile, then it should get added to the fleet. And if it's not mobile, it should get added to the defenses. Yeah, it's Java. Yes, there's still someone making games in Java in 2015. All I can say is, look, Minecraft succeeded at making games in Java. I can succeed too, or something. Okay, let's try this again. Should you write games in Java? No, not really. Not because of anything to do with the language or anything like that, but because no one else is doing it, right? There's like a small community of people who make games in Java, but it's very much a hobbyist type thing. Oh, you're a Java developer yourself. Do you make games in Barrow, or do you do other things? So yeah, I don't think Java's a good choice, not because anything about the language, but just because, well, everyone uses Unity now. Certainly here in Zurich, there's like a game development school, and they use Unity, and so all of my peers here use Unity, so if I was using Unity, I'd have this massive community of people for support, for helping me with stuff, which I don't have. And Sun, who now own Java, no, not Sun, Oracle, that's the thing, Oracle, who now own Java, clearly don't give a fig about Java as a gaming platform. Ah, right, proper J2E, CMS enterprise stuff. Yeah, I did that for a while. At one point, I was doing EJB3 and Spring and stuff like that. So yeah, seriously, unless you have a... Yeah, Slick2D. This is actually based on Slick2D. That's the graphics engine behind it. Ah, now it's being added. Great. Yeah, the graphics engine this is built on Slick2D. So I end up bypassing it quite a lot and just issuing OpenGL calls directly. But it's still, if nothing else, it's still useful for just loading in resources and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, case in point, Slick2D is quite nice, but it's... Oh. Okay, it works, but it still got put into the... No, it's not based on LitGDX, it's in fact based on Slick2D. When I started developing Airships, like almost 2 years ago, Slick2D was still under active development, and like 2 months later or something, I think they stopped developing it. So when I started, it seemed like a perfectly viable option, and now, well, yeah, I mean, if you are going to develop things in Java, use libgdx, obviously. I've actually seriously considered switching over the entire backend of this thing to libgdx. Might still do that at some point, because yeah, libgdx, unlike Slick2D, actually gets actively developed. Okay, so now it's being added. The only slight problem is it's being added into the reserve, which is sad. And the reason for this is probably that this layout garrison function doesn't get the idea of Airships very much. I wonder why. Wonder how, I wonder why. Sorry. Okay, I think we're just gonna have to add a little bit of debugging printouts here to see why layout garrison is refusing to lay out our land chip into the actual garrison and putting it into the reserve. The entire point of the reserve is it's just unstructured list of all the ships it wasn't able to place. So, because otherwise you'd run into all kinds of weird problems where, like, you build a new airship, but it doesn't physically fit into the combat area, so what happens with it, and so on, you know. And the fix for that is just, if you can't deal with it, it gets put into the reserve, and you can move ships out of the reserve during combat at any time, and so it's your problem then about positioning and layouting your ships. Okay. Okay, I'm completely confused. See the difference in between. Are these lines identical? Yep. Okay. Pass, David. What were you thinking when you wrote this code? Okay, so I guess placeship does the clever thing. Okay, so it's just trying to place the actives first, and then the reserve. Because I'm completely misunderstanding how this code works. Okay, so I'm just gonna write down every single reason why it might not be able to place it. Likely reason, this line. Yeah, so yeah, going on about the to Java or not to Java thing, Airships bundles its own Java virtual machine in an attempt to make it behave consistently, which sort of works and sometimes doesn't. One of the kind of issues I need to resolve before it really hits 1.0 real version is that a few people, like 5% of players or less, like more like 3%, just keep on having some kind of problem where like their Windows install doesn't like Java or it can't. There's some permissions issue or something like that, so the game doesn't work properly for them. And again, with something like Unity, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it has the same failure rate, but you'd hope that enough work has been put into making this thing really compatible. So. Right. Okay, yeah, so I did a whole bunch of stuff here. Let's yeah. Okay, there we were. It was intersects with construction. Derp. So the reason why we can't place the Imperator Furiosa is that it's colliding with its own under construction version. Don't do that then. So yeah, this is one of those cases where this must always have been a problem. It just hasn't been triggered so far because airships have more flexibility in their placement, and so they could always be placed somewhere which wasn't their original place where they were being constructed. Derp. Does still mean that the code for arbitrarily placing land ships is, well, the code for arbitrarily placing ships is broken. But that's something we can look into next, or in the future. Okay. Okay, now it's taking forever because of all the printing. Never mind. Defenses. Build land ship. Yay! Okay, now it actually got placed where we wanted it to be placed, so that's cool. We can move it around and it does its level best to put its feet somewhere sensible. Neat. Okay, so that works now. Nice. Get rid of actually these might come in handy later, so I'm just going to comment them out. They also kind of duplicate as some degree of documentation. Please don't learn software development practices from me. Okay. Okay, here we are. Making progress. Okay, I think at this point I am going to stop the stream. I've streamt for about 2 hours now and I'm getting kind of tired. I'll quite likely be back later today with more dev streaming, but for now I have to take a break, like cuddle the cats, do some stretches, stuff like that. Thank you for watching. I'm going to put boop, boop, boop. this back up. If you want to see the website of the game, if you want to follow me on Twitter or whatever. And yeah, I announce future streams on that Twitter handle, so you can see that. Okay, well, bye for now.